Namaskar and welcome to the second lesson on the Unit 5 Development of Education in India before Independence. In this lesson, we will be focusing on education under colonial and imperial rule. In the earlier lesson, we have a discussion on ancient and medieval education system in India and its takeaway. And this second part will be focusing on the system of education after the Muslim period or starting of the colonialism. Let us start the discussion by seeing what are the different broader areas during the colonial system. Broadly, the colonial system having two aspect. One, you might have seen that the English East India Company came and many of the provinces were under our local governments, but the business and the other control, marketing control, were under this East India Company and all. And later in 1857, once the first War of Independence failed, the Britishers started governing India using their power or using the British governmental power. And these are two areas, broad areas we can have during this colonial period. One is complete the colonial period, and second is the imperial period, where the Britishers started governing India directly. And what are the learning outcomes of this particular lesson? After completing this module, you will be able to understand the development of education in India during the colonial as well as the imperial rule till 1947. Understand the education system within the context of its social, political and economic background. Explain the education system during the British India, or you can say that the imperial period described the origin and development of basic education in India. As I mentioned, the education system after medieval period can broadly under two. One is colonial rule and under the imperial rule. Colonial rule up to 1857, and then from imperial rule up to 1857 to 1947. Why this division is there are demarcation, changes you can see, the difference you can see, the educational activities, educational provisions, and the rules, laws, etc. during both periods. What are the aims of education during this period? Basically, as I mentioned in the earlier lesson also, religious was very important, has very important place in education. Therefore, the spreading of Christianity even has given importance during this period. They considered education as a way or a medium for spreading Christianity. And to govern in an easy way, to get support from or to get benefit from all the Indian masses, they want few people, those who can help them. Therefore, they focused providing English to those people, and the medium of instruction they kept it as English, or you can say that they encouraged the study of English language in a better way during those periods. And even they want to prepare some of the people for supporting them in the administrative role, collecting taxes, ensuring peace, ensuring discipline among the different times. All these aspects have been done through imparting English education to a very few. It was their hidden agenda to divide the people of India into different categories also. And thereby providing the support to few, they aimed to expand their marketing also, business also. They want to expand the market of English goods in Indian places, different places also, Indian provinces, different provinces also. These were the major aims. You can see that if you go through these aims and if you compare it with the aims during the Vedic or Buddhist period, one thing which is not having a place is the holistic development of the child. Their intellectual development, their moral development, their physical development, their mental development, all these have not given a place during this type of Britishers, colonial as well as the imperial period. And it was a starting of some controversy also, since during the colonial period, even as I mentioned, when the English East India Company started controlling Indian people, they want people, those who can speak English, but they don't want many people knows English. Because of that, they thought of giving education, since there are people from Europe and other countries also. Therefore, these people, they don't have the idea of the vernacular language or the local language, but they need to interact with the Indian masses for their marketing and for their business. The only way is to teach these people, English people or European people, the vernacular language also. It was necessity. At the same time, they want to teach few Indians English also, so that the communication and all other activities will become easy. And for that purpose, based on the Charter Act in 1698, it has given permission to the English East India Company to open schools in India. They started opening schools in India, and mainly these schools were meant for European children, the children of European people who were working for the company and they were living in the India. But later on, they extended this to even to few Indians, those people, they are working for company also. There are people, those who are working for company as well, and they thought of providing education to the children of those people as well. And at the same time, with the permission of Charter Act, with the recommendation, they started charity schools, and many missionaries were started charities schools in different presidencies, and these schools were initially started at Madras, Bombay as well as Kolkata, and it is all meant for their education. And children of Indian officers also, as I mentioned, provided this English education. And then some controversy occurred. The controversy is that if we do not give education to the Indian masses or the natives of Indian English education, it will be very difficult for them to deal with them in different aspects. Therefore, directors of the companies, English East India Company, they were not willing to provide education to Indian natives. At the same time, some of the officers of the company, since they are actually dealing with these Indian natives and masses, they thought it is better to have education to Indian masses as well. But they want this education need to be given to Indian masses, and directors of the company are not willing. And this leads to a controversy generally known as Oriental-Anglicist controversy. And let's see what is an Oriental policy. In order to understand this controversy, first of all, we should have an idea about what is an Oriental policy and what is an Anglicist policy. And let us see what is an Oriental policy. In Oriental policy, this group of students, people, they believe that promotion of Indian education through indigenous languages of Sanskrit, Arabic and Persians are compulsory, and this education will support even the company in marketing, business, and even governing in different ways. Therefore, these people argued that promotion of Indian education through indigenous language is required. And for that purpose, we need to start, or we need to open many schools. And as a discussion in 1781, English East India Company opened one such institution, one madrasa at Calcutta for imparting education in Persian languages, Arabic and all. And this was considered as the first step in evolution of the modern education system that replaced the indigenous. You see, the system, even English East India Company has given importance to introducing the madrasas type of, not as a system which is equal to our Gurukul system or Buddhist system. Instead, they started the madrasa education. It was actually a starting of the replacement of indigenous education system. Along with that, they started a Banaras Sanskrit College for popularizing Sanskrit in 1791, Fort William College in 1800 at Calcutta, and Fort St. George College at Madras in 1818. Many of the colleges they started, you see, all these are the centers of higher education. All these centers are for higher education, providing education to elite group students. That time also they completely neglected the education of primary, education at primary as well as secondary, or in other words, the school education. They haven't spent any money for introducing the school system at primary as well as secondary. And this also initiated loads of issues among the masses, the native people, even some of the people from the company also. And because of the huge agitation, it came from different parts. The company thought of spending a meager amount of rupees 1 lakh to school education in India, and this has been approved under clause 43 of the Charter Act of 1913. And at the same time, there were people which firmly arguing that instead of indigenous languages, indigenous education system, or improving the Persian, Arabic and Sanskrit and all, we need to focus more on English language, promotion of English language. And we should not give this language learning to all masses. Instead, we need to find a few people, few Indians, bright Indians, and provide them education, and so that we can make them as our subordinate staffs, and we can utilize them for governing the other people also. And it was during those times Lord Macaulay intervened this controversy, Orientalist as well as Anglicist controversy, and he supported the Anglicist view and completely rejected the Orientalist view about clause 43 of Charter Act 1830. And he completely, in tune with the improvement of English education in India. And this particular support given by the Macaulay, you can see through his word, and he mentioned in the report that it is known as the Macaulay's Minutes. In the Macaulay's Minutes, he mentioned that we need to bring about a class of person Indian in blood and color. They are Indian in blood and color, and at the same time, but English in their taste, opinion, their attitudes, morals, and intellect. We need to prepare that Indian. They need to be Indian in color and blood, but at the same time, they need to obey all the activities. They need to undertake everything what we want. They should have a taste of English in all their activities. And this theory is generally known as a downward filtration theory. What it means is They thought of providing education to very few Indian people, English education, so that those who received this education will spread the ideology of the Englishers to the other masses. Since if something is coming out of the mouth of an Indian person who is Indian in blood and color, the others will agree. It was the logic behind this policy. That is why it is known as a downward filtration theory. They want to see from the masses the best people, those who can recruit as a subordinate staff, and they can be given English education, and later period they can utilize these people for governing the other masses. And Macaulay, by making all his arguments and recommendations, submitted his report in 1835 to the then Governor General of British India, William Bentinck, in 1835. And it is the starting actually of English education in India. Many of the people got an opportunity to taste the English education, and they become, even many of them become the subordinate in the colonial British governments. And this controversy continued further also, and this controversy continued till the later period of this colonial. And let us see the main features of the colonial education. You can see that starting, if you see the downward filtration theory, the English education during that time, or the colonial education, it is covered only very few elite only. Or you can see that in the context of the equity and equal opportunity, that what we are discussing now, it's completely against the equality or equal opportunity principles, and provided only education to very few people. And it is as per the needs of the company and not for the base need of an individual who are coming for education. It's not for the social development, or the economic development, or even individual development of the particular individual or the person who are going for the education. The basic purpose of the education provided during this period is for the improvement of the company governance and getting benefit out of it. And the transition rate from school to higher education is very low. It is too low, and school education, the provision for school education is too low, and even one person after completing school education to get into higher education also, it is too low, no scope for that. And teaching is based on the assumption that knowledge received should be accepted without any critical question. This is the method of teaching provided during that. The teacher, whatever he or she preach, it is the ultimate, and there is no option for even questioning whatever the teacher taught. The emphasis was given to the spread of Christianity also, using the missionary type of schools and colleges. And these are the main features of the colonial education. Let us go to the second part, the education during the imperial rule. As I mentioned, the imperial rule started actually after the 1857, the first war of independence. And before that, in 1853, Charter Acts recommended that directors of the company can decide to have a definite policy for education in India. It is strongly argued in 1853 Charter Act that we need to have a strong policy for education in India. Therefore, it is very essential to come up with a policy for education in India. Based on these Charter Act recommendations, a committee has been constituted under the chairmanship of Woods, and it's all this committee's recommendations is known as Woods Despatch, and submitted their report in 1854. The objective of this particular committee, the constitution of the committee, was to survey the educational progress in India and to give suggestion for further improvement. This committee has given, as I mentioned earlier also, something happened, the positive changes happened in the later period. You can say that it is all because of the Wood's Despatch. Many changes have been happened in Indian education during the colonial period. And they mentioned that it is very essential to provide importance to the vernacular or native language in schools as well as colleges or secondary schools. And they suggested that it is need to ensure the vernacular languages have been used in the school, and they need to be considered even as a medium of instruction in the primary level. They emphasized the government has responsibility for education activities, not only in the higher education level, but at the same time it has importance in the primary as well as secondary education. And this dispatch suggested that the medium of instruction at primary need to be the vernacular language, and at the secondary it should be Anglo vernacular, the combination of both, and in the higher education it should be the English. And the dispatch also has given importance to women education. And why I am saying this dispatch has given an important role in modernizing or improving the education scenario in India because of its important recommendation like this. The other commissions earlier haven't given any type of recommendation or any type of initiative for improving the education system in India. And even this dispatch has recommended for providing training to the teachers as well. These are some of the important recommendations during the Wood's Dispatch. But unfortunately, it submitted in 1854, and then this first war of independence happened. For the 2-3 years, nothing happened. And once this first war of independence completed, after the government change in British India also, they started thinking about the recommendation of Wood's Dispatch. Initially in 1857, as a part of the implementation of the recommendation of Wood's Dispatch, they established 3 universities in different provinces. One at Calcutta, another at Madras, and a third one at Bombay. Unfortunately, during those time, these universities are simply the institution which are meant for examination body, conducting examination for the matriculation and other different types of examination. There was no proper type of teaching happened during those times at these universities. And students will go for examination either through self-study, or they may be getting some tutoring experience from different tutors, or there are different affiliated private institutions. They are offering courses, and the students enrolled in these private institutions also will go for the examination. Basically, these are names are universities, but these are meant for only providing examination. And it is the next important juncture where this education in India moved further is the starting of initiation of a commission. It's known as Indian Education Commission, or it's generally known as Hunter Commission. It's constituted during the British colonial period, and they submitted the report in 1882. The very dual objective of this commission was to study the implementation of Wood's Dispatch and to examine the status of state-sponsored education in each of the provinces. It was a wider implication in the later periods because of many reasons. And along with this objective, the Commission's mandate is to suggest some recommendation to a proper share of public funds for the same. And let us see the major recommendation of this policy. There are 2 important recommendations. The one is the management of primary education was transferred to the local bodies. That's why I mentioned that it has a wider implication. At that time, local self-government act has been enacted. Now we have a self-government or Panchayati Raj system. its earlier form were there in colonial India, and the Hunter Commission suggested that the management of the primary education need to be given to the local bodies. Like now, the primary education in India at present it is given to the Panchayati, the lower level of the Panchayati Raj system. And another important recommendation is the government need to give granting aid to the private agencies to encourage private enterprise in the field of education. Private partnership in the field of education also encouraged during those times. These were the two important recommendations. Because of the second recommendation, the Indian education system has some adverse effect also. Because of lots of granting aid to private agencies, many of the private people came and received many grants, and then it caused a rapid growth of private schools and colleges in India. And because of the rapid growth of private schools, the indigenous schools which are prevailed in the rural areas of our different provinces become decayed, gradually destroyed. And this is an impact negatively affected in the indigenous education system. And after 1882, from the 1902 to 1921, there is a period which you can see lots of improvement in the number of institutions in India. There were lots of issues happened, controversies and agitation happened during those colonial period, and many of the Indian leaders were agitated against the English education and declining of the indigenous education system and not providing education, primary education even to the Indian masses and all. Those agitation came, and because of that, Lord Curzon thought of conducting a conference of education of people from different provinces, educational directors from educational different provinces of India. He invited directors of education from different provinces of India at Shimla, and they conducted around 15 days conferences, long conferences at Shimla. And as a recommendation of these conferences, the company, the colonial government appointed Indian University Commission in the year 1902. And many of these recommendations of the committee were opposed by Indians because many of them are anti-Indians recommendations. And one of the recommendations as per this commission is the government can come up with an education act to frame the educational policy of the state, and consequently this provision become a law also. And based on this law, and as a part of recommendation of this law, as I mentioned in 1857, the colonial government started 3 universities which are meant only for examination body, but these universities were given status of teaching also in 1904. It is a year where the universities at Madras, Calcutta and Bombay got opportunity to convert it as a teaching universities also. And again, under this law, there are some of the other things that is prevalent right now also, like periodic inspection of affiliated colleges. We have a system of NAC accreditation and all, and we have a system of inspection even at school levels and all. You can see the roots of those things from this particular education law happened in 1904. Periodic inspection of affiliated colleges, secondary schools. Even if I want to start a secondary school, we need to get a recognition from the Department of Education as well as the respective universities where this matriculation as examination happens. And then training of secondary teachers and starting of training institution, all those are part of this law. And as I mentioned, because of the recommendation of this commission, education commission, many agitation happened during those times from the different fields. Even the neglection of primary education also was fact for this type of agitation. And because of that, Gopal Krishna Gokhale put a bill before the British Parliament to introduce free and compulsory primary education. And the government has not considered that bill. Instead, they initiated Department of Education in government and different provinces. And after a gap of 1 year, again Gopal Krishna Gokhale put a private bill on introducing pre and compulsory education, but it is rejected. But it's principal aspect they considered. And because of that principal aspect of the bill they considered, and in 1912, elementary education was made free in some provisions of British India. And even British Parliament, this colonial parliament passed a resolution on education policy. And this resolution, as per the resolution, it recommends separate curricula for rural and urban schools. And even the curricula, this policy suggested that there should be teachers. If rural particular schools, students are from a different class or caste, the teachers also need to be from that different caste and class. And they recommended expanding university education by coming up with different universities at different parts of the country also. These were some of the important recommendation, positive recommendation that happened during 1930. And because of all these changes happened during that period, British government thought of finding what is the issues of university system in India. For that purpose, they constituted a committee under Sadler. Sadler was the then Vice Chancellor of Leeds University. It's popularly known as Calcutta Education Commission. The main objective was to see the issues of the Calcutta University and its prospects, but the commission go beyond it, and they have given suggestion on the secondary education, since the secondary education is the base for going to the university education. Therefore, they have given more importance to the different aspects of education in India, and many of those recommendations are even applicable to the other universities, not alone to the Calcutta University. And for improving the education system in British India, in 1921, the British government established a Central Advisory Board on Education, CABE, popularly known as CABE. Still it exists in India for taking important decisions regarding educations. And the important objective was to provide advice and suggestion for the improvement of education. And this is the period where large-scale expansion has been happened for the schools and colleges under government as well as the government-supported areas. And even the number of students also have been doubled at all levels during this period. Still, the primary education, even though it is doubled, but it is not in proportion with the number of primary, the age-appropriate kids during that time. And let me quickly go through the education during 2137, and it is known as a period of dynasty where British government passed a bill where the different provinces, the administrative power has been given to two agencies. One, the governor or executive committee, and some of the power is rested on the ministers or the councillors, where ministers are the people representatives. And during those times, the education is under the minister, whereas finance is under the governor. What happened if the provincial government, if they want to introduce anything in the field of education, it requires finance. But the finance was under the governor. Therefore, it was very difficult to get finance for implementing many of the things. Therefore, even though many of the provinces under Congress, they passed compulsory primary education, but its impact if they want to implement it in the grassroots level, they now face lots of difficulty. But by 1937, around 167 urban areas and 330 for rural area. They introduced the compulsory primary education. And it is a period where secondary education also improved, and many private schools were also started during those because of the policy of the colonial government. And this is the period where the discussion on introducing vocational education and modern Indian languages as a medium of instruction also started. And so the vocational education has also given a prominent place along with the Indian languages as the medium of instruction. And from 37 onwards, the provincial government got autonomy, and then some of the things even the government themselves can decide and implement, and that they removed the diarchy also. Since they removed the diarchy, therefore the provincial government has all the power to do everything, and they got the autonomy. And then during this time, the government of British government, they initiated a commission headed by Sargent, and they discussed in length about the development of Indian education in the post-war reconstruction period, since it is the period where the Second World War completed, and the system of education in India faced lots of issues. Therefore, the British government, they thought of studying the development of education in the post-war period and how this can be improved further. Even the issue of vocational education, all those things also happened during that time. Therefore, the commission submitted a report. It is known as Sargent's Scheme of Education, and based on the commission report also, considerable expansion of higher education happened during those periods, but still neglecting the secondary as well as primary education. This is the time where the Gandhi started writing in his paper Harijan about the importance of vocational education or the craft-centered education or the basic education or the national education for Indian people, known as Nai Talib. The reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, in the diarchy time, the provincial government don't have the power of financing. Therefore, financing was the problem. Therefore, Gandhiji thought if the students are self-centered, if the teacher also self-centered, if they can earn money through learn, that will benefit the education, and that will help the provincial government also. And to solve the socio-economic and educational problem of the nation, this Nai Talim was being happened. And it is based on the free and compulsory education to all, mother tongue as medium of instruction, craft-centered education, using 3H, head, heart and hands, rather than simply reading and writing, and development of self-reliance and patriotism. It was the basic the feature of the basic education. Later on, one conference in 1937 has been convened at the Wardha under the chairmanship of Gandhiji. They come up with the resolution based on all these features, and then constituted a committee under constituted a committee to look after the implementation also. And this committee has given loads of positive recommendation for implementing basic education structure in India. Now see our NEP 2020 again has given importance to pre-vocational education, vocationalization of education, skill-based education and all. These are, again, we are going back to loads of positive things happen in even the colonial period. Some of the things are there, and ancient period, especially in the Vedic and Buddhist period, those things we have been using now in our new education policy for developing a better and future citizen who can live in a better life and who can really a global citizen, or to make India as a global superpower. And there are some few questions also for practice. You can elaborate Oriental-Anglicist controversy. What are the features of Macaulay's minutes? Explain downward filtration theory. Explain the features of education during colonial period. What are the major recommendations of Wood's dispatch? What are the major impact of Hunter Commission recommendations? What is basic education? What are their features? With this, thank you all, and go through the video lesson along with the materials and other resources and update your understanding about the entire education system in India till 1947. Of course, it will have benefit for all of us when we are talking about the implementation of National Education Policy 2020. Thank you.